Well, hello, and welcome to the Herald of the Endtimes Apocalypse Hour here on the Grizzled Survivor channel. And, geez, what an apt name. Yeah, who would have thought that we'd have this massive viral pandemic during the lifetime of the show? But I'm glad you guys are all safe out there and hanging in there. And I felt probably now is the time to put together some sort of quick podcast, since we do deal with apocalyptic events on this channel, and certainly to many, this is probably the worst event they've ever seen in their lifetime. And I mean, I can definitely see that. Probably the worst event I've seen in my lifetime as well. Older generation probably is, Greg's probably seen worse than this during wars or whatever. Hope you guys can hear me okay. We're operating on a new microphone, so it shouldn't sound like I'm underwater anymore, but sometimes getting the proper distance away from me while I talk can be kind of difficult there. Yeah. I think probably what bothers me most about this coronavirus pandemic, and I'm going freeform here, guys. There's no script. There's really no one with me. I will be introducing some new faces to some podcasts. My girlfriend has experience dealing with doomsday cults, and so we're going to bring her in on a basis. But like most people, she's not prepared for this event. Most people aren't. Even doomsday preppers were probably caught somewhat off guard by this. I mean, there's only so much food you can hold on to and whatnot. Some people are better prepared than others. I have a bug out bag. I've had it for years. My stepdad put it together for me, and it definitely has come in handy over the years. Some other survivalists I know have given me like a field first aid kit, another little survivalist bag that's easier to carry. I have a shooter bag with my pistol in it and some ammunition, stuff like that, rifle ammunition, stuff that's easy to grab on the go. Some food, long-term food. No Vienna sausages, guys. I couldn't bring myself to that. But MREs are always a great thing to have. Even something as simple as a ramen noodle pack will keep you going in a pinch. But we're not quite there yet. This apocalypse, and what I was hinting at now, it's not really the apocalypse, but this situation, what bothers me the most, at least here in the United States, and a lot of my listeners are based here in the States, your mileage may vary by country, but what bothers me the most, and what makes this harder than like the actual apocalypse where the only law and order is what you make of it, is the fact that you do have to operate in the framework of society. I mean, rent is still due for many people, myself included. I've been out doing mundane work, much like a stalker in the game Stalker. I'm out doing food delivery, but it involves going to a location, picking up an item for someone, and dropping it off to them within a time limit most of the time. So I've been out working because my rent is still due. And despite the fact that you've been ordered to stay inside and people have been ordered to stay inside, if you have a job that's deemed essential, or you can figure out some sort of hustle like DoorDash, Postmates, something like that to keep yourself going financially, this alone is a catastrophic event for you, and it's almost outside of any sort of preparation. I mean, if you have guns and you have extra guns and you've been hoarding these guns, you could sell them, but most people that are in that sort of spot, that they were prepared enough to have like a supply of food, a supply of weapons, supply of ammunition, bug out bags, they are not going to be hurt by this financial crunch. They're either people who have made their money, they can work from home, or they've been financially prepared to shut themselves off for the world for a while. They live in the mountains on property they own in a cabin. But the way American society is set up, you can't simply go and build yourself a shack by the river and go live. That's someone else's land. The law enforcement's going to come harass you, tell you to leave, and even under these conditions, the homeless people are catching flack, Lots of people out in the streets, which I do not advocate, folks. If you are under a stay-at-home order, you need to stay at home as much as humanly possible, okay? Don't be out on the streets. Here where I live, they've said that jogging and being outside is an essential activity that you need to do. It's actually something they encourage you to do under the stay-at-home order, and people are out in droves. There's old people with children, there's infants, toddlers. They gather in groups when they're not supposed to. People just have no concept of how bad this could actually be. Americans tend to look at countries like Spain, where they've stacked bodies in the ice rink because the amount of the dead is so great, and they just think it can't happen here. And that already is defeating any sort of preparedness that you can have as a survivalist, to think that you are going to just, this is not going to get that bad here. That sort of mentality is already self-defeating. You really need to think it's going to happen here and look at these other countries and say, okay, we need to be ready. If it says don't go out, don't go out. Minimize your contact with other people, because in a viral pandemic, that is the only way you can truly be prepared. I see people buying gas masks. A gas mask without the proper filters is not going to help you against a virus, okay? I have a Soviet paratrooper mask sitting right over here, and it's useless right now, okay? Because the filters in it are not set up to be useful against a viral attack. A respirator you buy at the goddamn Ace Hardware, standard 2-cartridge fucking face mask, doesn't do shit for you unless you have a viral filter attached to the mask. A dust particle filter is not going to help. Any sort of surgical mask, unless it's rated to protect you, like a dust mask, a painter's mask, all that is doing is making you touch your face more, which is exactly what they said not to do. If you're contaminated, I guess it would prevent you, theoretically, from coughing on someone else and giving it to them. But if you're contaminated, stay the fuck inside your house. I'm just being real with you guys here, okay? This is probably the number one thing that bothers me about this pandemic, at least where I live, is the amount of people not listening to the advice that is given to them. And I understand, especially in the survivalist community, that there is a disdain for the government and a distrust of the government, and I see people equating this to practice for martial law. Guess what, guys? If they wanted martial law, they would have it already, okay? What you need to look for, and this is something I do want to cover here, when you need to worry. Well, I don't see soldiers in the streets policing civilians around, telling them where they can and can't go. That would be my first indication to me that the shit is really hitting the fan, and that you really need to consider moving to a better area that you can be more isolated, maybe flee to another country, do something at that point. When you see people outside the hospitals that aren't being let in, that is another sign. When you see the hospitals overwhelmed, when you see ambulances in the streets trying to do what they can to save people because there's no room in the hospitals, when you see hotels and conference centers being converted into makeshift field hospitals, that's when you start to worry, because the virus is getting bad enough that the medical system's getting overwhelmed, and that order could probably break down after that. That there's a really good possibility. We're seeing shortages in the grocery stores, but not on the level where you need to worry, okay? Here where I live is a metropolitan area, which is not the best place to be, but I'm here, and I have no choice because of the nature of this pandemic is not catastrophic. I have no choice but to try to survive and to make money while I can. It's just the cold hard facts of the situation. And so we find ourselves, I'm trapped in this metropolitan area, but I go to a store, they might not have all the items I need, but they're pretty well stocked. And if I go to 4 or 5 different stores, I will eventually find every item that I need, which means that this definitely is not as bad as it could be. When you go to every store and the shelves are completely empty, and that is probably already too late, but we're not at that point yet. Logistics are still flowing. You can order anything you wanted off of Amazon right now, and I guarantee you it comes within 2 days. I bet that the logistics train is not even that far severed yet. Oh, give me a second here to kind of compose my thoughts on the subject here. I guess what I'm saying is right now it's not that bad, but those signs there would be my most immediate indication that order has broken down, and that perhaps it's time to flee, especially a metropolitan area like myself. If you live in a more rural area, in that sort of instance, you would need to watch for refugees from the cities and, do what you can to kind of make it apparent that you're not maybe an easy target. I mean, you can't trust everyone nowadays. I would say that you really can't trust anyone nowadays. I don't even really trust myself half the time. I sleep with a loaded gun pointed at myself just in case I pull some tricks. No, I'm just joking on that one, guys. But it pays to be suspicious, okay? And it pays to isolate yourself. Do what you can to help people. We are firm advocates of helping people on this show. We have dropped off care packages to the homeless community as much as we can during this crisis. And if my neighbor was starving to death, I would definitely make sure they had food to eat. That being said, if shit really broke down, you'd really have to be more selective with who you could trust. You know, there are groups. If you really want to talk to me, there are several very inclusive groups of people that I know that are survivalist minded, that would be more than happy to talk with any race, gender, creed, religion, anyone, and get them, a community of people that perhaps they could count on in the case of a breakdown. And if you really want to hear me talk more about that, we'll set up a podcast to do that. But this is just my thoughts during this current crisis here. So Grizzled Survivor, what can I do to protect myself? Well, stay the fucking side. I've already said that. Wash your fucking hands, people. I come out of the restaurant industry in my mundane job, okay? And it may not be very glamorous, but one thing it taught me is the importance of washing your hands. And now more than ever, clean your door handle off at your house. Spray down surfaces that you use with a cleaner that's going to kill the virus. And not only just spray it down, but look on the packaging of the cleaner, and it will tell you how long it needs to sit on the surface in order to kill the virus. Just a spray and wipe might not be sufficient, guys. You might have to let it sit there a minute, but your health is worth it. I'm trying to get Greg to put together a podcast on the topic as quick as I can. Obviously, not having much contact with him because he is in the vulnerable group, as stubborn as he is, and as much as he might not want to admit that, and as knowledgeable as he is on the subject of, contamination and environmental hygiene, he needs to stay inside. And so I'm trying to rig something up via phone with him. And I'm sorry for my silence, that I haven't been perhaps as active as I should be during this time. But I want my viewers to know that you can reach out to me at any time and address any concerns with me. The Facebook page is a great way to do that. That's facebook.com/Grizzled Survivor. You can comment on a video and I respond really fast. I'm here to help, guys. I'm here to answer any questions, to assuage your fears the best that I can, because fear is definitely your enemy in this scenario. I mean, the virus, you can't shoot it with a gun. No amount of body armor is going to protect you from this thing. The best you can do is just prepare yourself and try to remove yourself from the situation before it even becomes an issue. Because we're trying to slow this virus down, guys. We're not trying to prevent everyone in America from getting this virus. At least here, the strategy, as I understand it, is to simply slow it down until the hospitals can deal with the most severe cases, while everyone else that's just a minor case stays at home and recovers from it. And then hopefully, we don't know this, but hopefully when you get it, it will build an antigen in your body so you don't get it again. Like your immune system kind of gets that booster shot, and it looks like we'll be able to make a vaccine for this. So the other purpose of slowing this down is to allow the scientists time to make a vaccine. But if we put ourselves in a bad situation and we get this virus and we spread it to others and we accelerate the spread, it's going to overwhelm the hospitals, guys. And if you listened earlier, that is one of my first signs that order is going to break down shortly. If you want to see martial law, keep going outside, because that's when it's going to happen, okay? I'm not trying to lecture anyone, and certainly I understand you guys are scared. Gas masks with viral filters will protect you to the best of their ability. Gloves, change them off, and if you're wearing them, because the gloves are just going to pick up the virus and live on the surface of the glove. You need to change them off, and if you have disposable gloves. But I'd like to say that unless you're an essential person that really needs to be using some of this equipment, perhaps leave it to the people that need to use it, such as medical professionals, because in this time of crisis, being a hoarder and hoarding this stuff is not going to help you, okay? You're really just hurting yourself in the long run, because at least in a pre-apocalyptic environment, unless you're some sort of radical revolutionary, and even if you are, okay, I've been called a radical in my life, okay, because my beliefs are pretty far out there in some ways, and I'm all about not trusting the government, but probably for different reasons than you guys in some ways. The point is, in a pre-apocalyptic environment, even if you are a radical revolutionary, unless you're some ultra nationalist asshole whose whole worldview is the destruction of this society and not helping people, because there's a lot of left-wing socialists that believe in the destruction of this current society too, but it's in the framework of helping people out and making sure your neighbors eat, while others believe in the framework of let this virus kill people, let it use it as a weapon to destabilize society so we can bring about some ultra-nationalist paradise. Outside of those people, though, your duty as any good American or any citizen of any country in this pre-apocalyptic pandemic environment is to try to help society survive the best it can. We can transition into the doomsday survival plans after that, and I've got plenty of tips, guys, and I've got plenty of time right now. We'll be reading survivalist books. I'll be giving you guys all sorts of advice on how to take care of yourself, take care of your family, take care of those close to you. But we need to band together as a community to survive this. And I know that we're supposed to isolate, and that is part of being a community, as backwards as that fucking sounds, folks. Part of being a community in this instance is not coming together, but maintaining a distance while making sure the most vulnerable elements of our society are protected, because if we don't, this virus is going to get under control and we all become vulnerable. If you're rich and order breaks down, they're coming for your ass, okay? Put it point blank. The poor people coming for your ass, okay? And you don't have enough money and enough guns to protect yourself from every single fucking person, okay? And if order breaks down and you're poor, you have an equal target on your back because you are already vulnerable, and now you have to try to figure out how you're going to survive in a very bad situation without the nest egg that the rich people had in terms of supplies and, you know, a place to live and the transportation to leave the area if needed. That's going to be difficult. So we need to pull together. And I'm no fan of the rich people, let me tell you. I believe that a lot of this current crisis could have been mitigated, not avoided, because you can't avoid something like this, folks. This is a natural virus that just sprung out of the wild, you know. It doesn't have the hallmarks of a bioweapon, okay? I've heard that conspiracy batted around a lot. And here, let me just say something to you guys before we go any further with this. The Grizzled Survivor show is definitely a survivalist show, okay? Like, we are all about it. But conspiracy theories are something I don't like to waste a lot of time on. There's already horrible shit going on in the world right in front of your face. And a lot of times I feel like we don't listen to it because we're like focused on these conspiracies that are so outlandish, so crazy, so wild that it could possibly be this evil scheme. We don't see the evil perpetrated in the world right in front of our face. And I feel like conspiracy theories a lot of times are there to just distract people from the actual events that are happening right in front of their face. Because if I have you looking into how John F. Kennedy got killed while I gas a bunch of children in a foreign country, it's kind of distracting to you. You're too busy looking at the evil that you imagine in your head. So I've heard that this is a bioweapon, but if I was making a bioweapon, I would certainly make something more devastating than the Wuhan coronavirus, okay? I certainly would make a bioweapon that was more lethal than that, I would hope. And if that's the best that our enemies, or even our own scientists, because I've heard that the United States is responsible for this one as well, and I'm not here to speculate, but if that's the best these scientists could come up with is the coronavirus, which has a decent lethality rate, but not anywhere near what I would want out of a weapon, it's a natural virus, guys. Okay, that conspiracy is already too much. The conspiracy that this is only here to instigate martial law, they would already have it, okay? If it was here to do it, they wouldn't need a virus to get martial law. That's what you guys don't understand. If they wanted martial law, they would have it tomorrow. Who's going to stop them? They would just order the military into the streets. They would call it a training exercise. They would call it war games. We're training to fight in an urban environment. We might be going to Iran, so we need to know when we get to Tehran, we're going to need to know that urban fighting. You know, I saw an ad that said that they needed thousands of infantrymen by the spring of 2020, which is almost upon us. That could be a conspiracy. I see it as something to keep your eye on. Because why are we recruiting that many infantrymen? That being said, I don't think it's coronavirus response. I think this blindsided everyone, including our very short-sighted government. I would look in the future to places like China. If they get a pandemic, folks, the rest of the world needs to be concerned, okay? At first, I thought maybe this was as bad as SARS, and for many of you, maybe you don't know, but SARS was a tenth at this point. That statistic's not even correct. It was a fraction as infectious or lethal as what we're dealing with now. But it's important to remember that coronaviruses have been around a long time. The common cold is a form of the coronavirus. So this is something we can beat. This is something that we will survive. Society as a whole is not going to collapse from this, folks. If I'm wrong, well, we'll deal with it then. I would imagine that you won't be listening to very much of a podcast at that point. You would be just trying to take the advice that I've given you over the years and go from there. I'm not coughing because of the coronavirus, folks, just so you know. I have the bad habit of smoking, which I probably should drop in this current climate, but we all have our bad habits now, don't we? Well, I'm going to give it about 9 more minutes on this podcast, and then I think we're going to call it a day for now. But I need, if you've made it this far, certainly, into the podcast, I need your help as a listener, and I need you to provide me with any questions or concerns that you would like me to talk about on the next episode, because I will be pumping out another episode soon. I will also be trying to keep some of the light-hearted stuff coming. I'm going to be playing a blind playthrough of Fallout 3. I've never played it. I have my reasons for not playing Fallout 3. I could go into them here and end the podcast that way, I suppose. So, and I'll reiterate all this in the beginning of the Let's Play, but if you watched the limited playthrough I managed to get out of Fallout 1 before the game crashes every time I get to Junktown, you would have known that it's my favorite game. It's one of my favorite games. It's not my favorite. Stalker is my favorite game for the reasons of you can get fun entertainment in 10 minutes out of it, or you can play for 6 hours and just have as much fun as you want to have. It's really a game that you can lose yourself in or just play for 10 minutes. But Fallout was really what started my love affair with the post-apocalypse. That game was the first game I really remember playing as a kid where you could do whatever you wanted. You could walk into a town and shoot everyone. In the D&D games, you're a noble warrior, a paladin of virtue, and you go into the city and everyone loves you. In Fallout, you're just some fucking asshole from the wasteland, and no one likes you, You have to make people trust you, or you could just blow them all away if you wanted. And they let you play as an evil character. It lets you steal. It lets you do whatever outside of the framework of, this noble paladin. And so I really liked that. It was really a departure from the RPGs at the time. And Fallout 2 just took that. I was 13 when Fallout 2 came out. It really took that game and just expanded on it. You could get married to someone and then sell them into slavery if you wanted. You could play as a horrible person, or you could be the noble warrior who goes around the wasteland and avenges all the wrongs. And then I waited. And I waited. And I saw the businesses, the company that I liked, the company that made this game go out of business, and Van Buren, which was Fallout 3, got canceled, and there was Fallout Tactics, and I would still argue, without having played Fallout 3 at all, I will argue right now that Fallout Tactics is more of a Fallout game at heart than Fallout 3, and we will see, and that will be my opinion. But the reason I never played Fallout 3 is Bethesda. And I didn't even know anything about Bethesda when that game came out, okay? I just saw how they treated me as a fan, and they constantly rejected help from the people who made Fallout great, and they told the fans, we're not making a game for you. We're making a game for people that just like schlocky-ass games, and if you're a fan of Fallout, we've taken everything that you like, and we've basically shit on it. We didn't ask for any help. We wrote a world that Bethesda wanted to write, not a world that was really true to the game of Fallout. I imagine it's how people felt that were really hardcore Trekkies, and they saw, J.J. Abrams' Star Trek, okay? And I'm sure that they got enjoyment out of it. But it was really not an homage. And J.J. Abrams said this. He said, I'm not making a movie for people that like Star Trek. I'm making a movie for people that like schlocky popcorn movies. And that's how I felt Bethesda treated us as fans, and they constantly shit on us. And so I never played it. I couldn't bring myself to play it. I just couldn't do it. I felt disrespected as a gamer, as a fan of the franchise. I felt disrespected. And to this day, I tend to avoid Bethesda products because of how they treated me as a Fallout fan during the development of Fallout 3. And I've heard that New Vegas perhaps has really gotten a lot of things right. And I'm not sure where that falls. I'm not sure if it's like a sequel to Fallout 3 or an expansion to Fallout 3 or its own game. And I'm not sure where it really fits in, but at least they took the environment back to where it started, California, Nevada. That's where the Wasteland game was set. And Wasteland was the precursor to Fallout. And all of these games set the bar so high, and I just didn't see... I watched people play Fallout 3. My stepdad played it for a while. I was at the house visiting, and he's playing it, and I'm looking over his shoulder, and he's just, like, headshotting everybody with this... The fights just boil down to, like, clicking a button and clicking on a headshot, and you just waste everybody. And I'm like, okay, that's cool, but it takes the best element, like Stalker, for instance. The firefights in Stalker are intense. The bullets are flying, there's ballistics. It doesn't feel like an RPG when you fight someone in Stalker. When you're in a gunfight in Stalker, it doesn't feel like an RPG. It feels like a first-person shooter, despite the RPG elements that are inherent in the game. Whereas from what I saw of Fallout 3, it looks like it wants to be a first-person shooter, kind of like Hellgate London. On the surface, it looks like it's a first-person shooter, like you're going to go in there and just go balls out. And then it's more of an RPG, but where Fallout, to me, failed in that case was if you just give the player the ability to click a button and headshot every single person, you're turning it more into just a brainless FPS again, and you're really taking the RPG elements kind of out of it. So that's my rant about Bethesda and why I don't like them and why I don't play their games and why I haven't really played anything that Bethesda's released really ever. I wasn't big on Oblivion. I wasn't big on Morrowind. Just didn't care. They looked generic and they looked boring to me. I was busy playing Stalker and games that interested me at the time, and I tend to stick to the older stuff. So I probably was even playing Fallout 2 back then. Because to me, that game was the pinnacle, and it's not going to get any better. Fallout New Vegas is not going to be better than Fallout 2. But we'll see. That's one of the things in the works. Trying my best on the Stalker pistol only challenge, but it is definitely harder than I anticipated. That being said, I've got some video to share with you, and we'll make it through the Agroprom Research Institute pretty quick. Just a reminder that I will have some new voices on the channel, as well as some old voices. Greg will be making an appearance maybe over phone. I've got my girlfriend to definitely talk about some topics that are interesting to her, and maybe we'll get her on here next time to just talk about, she's younger than I am, and this is definitely the worst crisis she's ever seen, and so maybe we'll get her perspective on it. And I just want to thank everyone for taking this half hour out to listen to me ramble on about various things. It's all going to be okay, folks, but we have to work together. There's no winning if we are not united. United we conquer, divided we fall, and that's definitely true in this case. Unless the government starts giving you crazy orders, listen to what they say. They're not telling you to stay in your house because they hate your freedom, okay? They're telling you to stay in your house because you could be depriving someone else of their freedom when you kill them with this virus. It's real, folks. It's out there. And shit's gonna get bad if you don't stay in your house and you don't take precautions to keep it from spreading to other people. If you're sick, you think you have it, and you can't afford to be tested, then take the precautions and act like you have it. And don't go spreading it to other people. And jogging is not an essential activity. There's plenty of stuff you can do inside your home that will raise your heart rate and probably be better on your joints than jogging. Try some isometric exercising. Try some military exercises. Those guys manage to get pretty strong and pretty limber. Martial arts exercises. All of this you can do in your house, folks. Stay inside. Go out to get your groceries. If you have to work, take precautions like me. Just try to minimize contact with other people while still having empathy for other people, folks, because that's what's going to get us through this time, regardless of your nationality or where you live in the world. We all need to pull together. All right, guys. Well, that's all I have for you here. I guess it's more like the Herald of the Endtimes apocalypse half hour this week. But we'll get back at it. I've got plenty of projects. I'll be uploading civil defense films throughout this too to keep the content coming, because if you're not going to be leaving your house, folks, I'd really prefer you to stay tuned to the Grizzled Survivor channel and spend some of your free time here watching our videos and learning some tips and just trying to make the best out of a bad situation. Send your suggestions my way, facebook.com/Grizzled Survivor. Leave them in the comments of this video. GrizzledSurvivor@gmail.com is an address you can reach me at as well if you need to reach me there, folks. And other than that, I don't have much to say besides stay safe, stay inside unless you really need to go out, stay empathetic towards other people, and stay alive. Happy survival, guys, and I hope to hear from you. Until then, this is Grizzled Survivor signing off.